Are you wasting time budgeting without getting the results that you want? Are you tired of feeling guilty about splurging on small things that you enjoy? Almost 10 years ago, I ditched budgeting altogether, and it absolutely transformed my life. I didn't ignore money altogether. Instead, I created a new way to manage our money that made budgeting completely unnecessary. In this video, I'm going to explain why I gave up budgeting and share the 3-step system that I've used to manage our finances over the last decade. In that time, our net worth has grown significantly, and I've also gained so much more freedom to spend money when and where I want without feeling guilty. So before I get into the new 3-step system that I've used to manage our money, I have to first explain why I gave up budgeting. So to be clear, I budgeted for a good portion of a decade. So I know it really well, but there are 5 reasons why I gave it up. And I'm guessing that you can relate to at least one of these reasons. The first reason that I gave it up was that it took a lot of time. We first started budgeting out of necessity. My wife and I were earning about $30,000 combined living in northern New Jersey. If we didn't keep a close eye on our spending and be really intentional with our money, we would start depleting what little savings we had and soon go into debt. But when I started budgeting, there weren't as many apps or software to help you with budgeting. And so I did what any reasonable person would do. I created a spreadsheet. And this took forever to manage. Each month, I would log into all of our accounts, manually tally up the spending into each of the categories, methodically going through each account and then each spending category. I would then compare it to our prescribed budget amount for each category and then create 2 columns for the next month and carry on. This was a meticulous process to gather feedback and understand our spending each and every month. And it took so much time. The second reason that I gave up budgeting is that I wasn't getting the results I wanted. Sure, I was able to generally control our spending and move in the right direction, but most of the time it just felt like a random occurrence rather than a direct result of the budgeting activity. And the real reason for this is that with the spreadsheet system that I had set up, I didn't get real-time feedback. I wasn't able to easily check in on our progress throughout the month or use it to inform spending decisions. Basically, I waited until the end of the month, pulled the spreadsheet together, and then I'd figure out the mistakes we made in the past and then promise to do better next month. I was always looking backward, and this leads me to the next reason I ditched budgeting, which is that I felt like crap all the time. Because of this vicious cycle of setting prescribed amounts for each category and then reviewing our spending at the end of the month, I felt horrible. Not only because there would usually be a couple of categories where we'd overspend, but also because throughout the month, I would live in fear of ruining our budget and ruining our finances. It would always be running through my mind that I needed to be more conscious of our spending and not slip up. And the real irony is that we weren't ruining things. While we missed our targets on specific categories here and there, each month we would typically meet our overall budget and therefore kept working towards our goals. But I wasn't able to see it. Our minds have a negativity bias, so instead I focused on the mistakes and the imperfections. But I didn't give up on it immediately. I stuck with it, and that eventually led me to the next reason that I gave up budgeting, which was that it eventually became unnecessary. As we started to progress in our careers and earn promotions or change jobs, we, for the first time, had disposable income. We had also been budgeting for several years and had developed a habit of controlling our spending. And the funny thing is, as we made more money, we didn't look to where we were going to spend it on. Instead, we started saving more. I remember being so excited to open a Roth IRA and being able to fully fund it in the next year. That's what got me excited. Budgeting slowly became less important, and eventually it became unnecessary. I didn't need a budget with arbitrary numbers to tell me how much I should spend eating out or on specific hobbies. I had a good feel for it after a few years of practice. But besides all of those reasons, the last and perhaps the most important reason that I gave up budgeting is that I found a better way. And that better way is the 3-step system that I want to share with you now. But before I do that, I want to hear from you. Do you relate to any of these reasons that we gave up budgeting? Let me know which ones in the comments below. Okay, so now let's jump into the 3-step system we use instead of budgeting to more effectively manage our finances. Step 1 is to determine your desired savings rate. This is far different than how I was budgeting in my 20s. Initially, I did have a savings line in my budget, but it was so far down at the bottom of the spreadsheet. Now, I didn't realize this at the time, but having that savings line at the very bottom of my spreadsheet, it actually told my brain subconsciously that this was something we would do if we didn't spend all of our income on other categories. Savings was kind of an afterthought. This is kind of like buying a cake for your birthday party. In the old way of budgeting, you would slice up the cake, hand it out to all of the guests at the party, and then once everyone has received some cake, you get whatever is left. Depending on how many guests and how big of slices you handed out, you may get a lot of cake, or you may get none at all. But in this new method, it was the first thing that I thought about. It was, how much do I want to save this month or this year? And then what does that leave me with to spend? Some people describe this as paying yourself first. What they mean by that is to dedicate a percentage of your income to savings before allocating any of your other income for expenses. This is a way to prioritize savings. Going back to the cake metaphor, this would be like cutting a slice for yourself first. It is, after all, your birthday. And then cutting up the remaining cake to hand out to your guests. The reason that savings rate is so important is that it actually determines how long you have to work. But that's not the focus of this video. I'll go into more detail in another video, so make sure you hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed. But for now, suffice it to say that the more you save, the faster you actually build wealth, and the more freedom you actually gain, allowing you to reach the point in your financial journey a little bit earlier as you save a higher percentage. So that's step 1. The magic really happens in step 2 and 3. So let's continue with this 3-step process. Step 2 is to automate your savings and investments. Now, I'm a huge fan of automating everything, but let's stay focused. This step is focused on automating savings and investments. Once you decide how much you want to save, you then set up automatic transfers or contributions to happen automatically. This means setting up your 401k or other retirement contributions at work. It could also mean setting up automatic monthly contributions into a Roth IRA or even automatic transfers into a high yield savings account. Let's walk through an example to show you how this might work. Let's say that you want to save 20% of your take-home pay, and your current take-home pay is $6,000 per month. That means you want to save $1,200 each month. To automate this, I'd recommend starting with your employer's retirement account. And the amount can vary depending on your employer's match, assuming that they offer one to begin with. If they match 3%, for example, then I'd recommend contributing at least this amount to this account. And 3% is also calculated off of your gross income or salary. In this scenario, 3% would be approximately $220 per month. Yet in this example, we're going to put in more than the 3%. Let's contribute $700 per month to the employer-sponsored retirement plan. This is really easy to set up. All companies allow you to elect a certain amount each paycheck to go towards your retirement plan. After contributing $700 per month to your retirement account, this means that you have $500 left of that $1,200 or the 20% to automate. The next step, in my opinion, would be to set up automatic contributions to your Roth IRA. Assuming you don't make more than the income limits, which in 2024 is $146,000 for individuals or $230,000 for married couples, or at least that's when you can't make the full contribution. In this example, the person's take-home pay is well below the income limit, so we are going to put in the remaining $500 per month toward their Roth IRA. But if you don't have an emergency fund or want to bump up your cash savings for any particular reason, you could also substitute the Roth IRA for a high-yield savings account for a short period of time. The beauty of this step is that once you set up your automatic contributions and transfers, you don't have to think about it for the rest of the year. or even multiple years if your income or savings rate stays the same. This allows you to focus on living your life while feeling confident that you're meeting your financial goals. And this brings us to step 3. Step 3 is to spend the rest. Once you determine how much you want to save and automate the savings to meet that goal, you can then spend money guilt-free. It doesn't matter if you spend more on dining out or groceries or on travel or any other category. The only thing you need to focus on is the total spending. Going back to the cake metaphor, if you want to spend more on travel or give a large piece of cake to your buddy John because he loves cake, you can do that. And then you can give a smaller piece of the cake to Jill or Kelsey. It doesn't matter how you cut up the rest of the cake. This shift has allowed us to not worry about individual spending categories. It has also allowed us to see that spending money on things you value is a much better way to live than living heads down in a spreadsheet. And by taking this approach, all you need to do is make sure that you don't overspend. And to do that, we use a tool called Empower to help us review our total spending each month. I go over how you can use it to review your spending in this video right here. Check it out if you want to learn more. As always, thanks for watching and enjoy the journey.